Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
The Cruise. I, Jordan Russell, was very quickly starting to realize a rather horrible fact about being stuck on a cruise in the biting cold rivers of Norway. My problem was that I really didn't believe there would be enough mead in the entire world to possibly make this cruise very enjoyable for me. You see, the problem with being a PhD and technically Doctor of History specializing in the Vikings was very simple. You were always the person your family turned to whenever they wanted to know something. Or in my case, wanted to drag on a cruise with a Viking theme. I suppose as I sat on a very comfortable golden metal chair with a large round dinner table in front of me with a white silk tablecloth, that it could have been worse. This could have been some kind of touristic event filled with historically inaccurate depictions of Vikings, like the horns on their helmets. Something that still irritates me even now. But thankfully, this was a grown-up historical cruise that my grandma had invited me and the rest of her senior friends on, for free, I should probably mention. And my philosophy is don't turn down freebies. Normally that philosophy applies to hot men only, but I did need a holiday. The entire dining chamber on the cruise ship was immensely big, able to fit almost 100 people inside on massive round tables with a piping hot buffet at one end of the chamber and a live band playing soft classical music at the other end. I actually didn't mind the classical music and even some of the Norwegian band players were rather hot, and I was starting to wonder if I had a thing for Scandinavian men. The hard wooden floor of the dining chamber was perfectly polished, which was a little surprising, because I knew of two elderly women who had chipped the floor early during a very entertaining argument about something I couldn't understand because they were shouting in Finnish. "Are you okay, dear?" my grandma Heidi asked. I smiled at her and nodded, and my grandma really did look beautiful in her long red dress, pearl necklace and black high heels that didn't hide her age, but she really accented it, making her long neck even more beautiful. I returned my attention to the table where all of her university best friends, she had known most of them for 50 years or more, sat around the table eating, drinking mead and wine and brandy and just being happy. "Are you enjoying yourself, Jordan?" my grandma asked. "Yes, thanks, Grandma," I said. My grandma smiled a little and gestured I should return to my plate that was empty, and as amazing as the buffet was with its juicy succulent chicken strips in a rich curry sauce, golden crispy goujons of prawns and amazing fluffy white chocolate mash, another historical inaccuracy I'm not complaining about, I wasn't sure if I actually wanted some more. There was just something so nice and peaceful and calming about being with all these older people and hearing them enjoy themselves. Especially after all the chaos and pressure and utter nightmare that turned out to be my PhD. Even now, I was rather surprised I got it. "Oh, Ropa," my grandma shouted. My stomach instantly tensed as my grandma embarrassingly, like all overprotective women do, waved over to a very hot and sexy Finnish man with beautiful broad shoulders, a killer smile, and hair to utterly die for. He was hot as hell, and he was certainly gay, but I didn't want my grandma to sign me up for a random blind date. Not on this trip. Not ever. So I quickly stood up. I didn't even take my plate, and I made my way over to the buffet on the far side of the chamber. Thankfully, there were plenty of long red silk curtains covering open windows near the buffet area. I was just glad there were places to hide, and at least I could get to smell all the amazing food whilst I hid from Grandma and Ropa if need be. "I'm sure my grandson is here somewhere," my grandma said as I could hear her little feet shuffle towards the buffet. As much as I wanted to grab some food out of the enticing silver buffet trays, I dashed behind the nearest red curtain. I was surprised that I backed into something very soft. I slowly started to feel the thing behind me, and realized that it felt like a living person wearing a very expensive suit. "What are you doing?" a man with a Swedish accent asked. I had to admit that I was rather turned on by the voice. It was husky, manly, and very sexy. "Hiding from my grandma and a man she's trying to hook me up with," I said, trying to keep my voice as quiet as possible. Then I realized something. "Why are you hiding here?" "Make you a deal. Don't tell anyone I was here, and I'll help you hide from your grandma," the man said. I didn't really have a choice, and the man's voice was so sexy I couldn't say no to him at this point. "Deal," I said. "Good," the man said. "Don't make a sound." I didn't know what he was talking about until he wrapped his wonderfully strong arms around me, and I found myself being thrown out of a window. Then I quickly realized the man holding me was abseiling down the side of the white cruise ship with the icy cold Norwegian water below us. I wanted to scream, but for some reason I trusted this man, and I felt him touching me up, putting his hands all over my body. And as much as I liked it and my wayward parts flared to life, I realized he wasn't touching me up. He was searching me. I carefully touched his waist and felt something very hard. I wished it was his hard dick, to be honest, but it was a gun. Why the hell did this man have a gun? A few moments later, the blur of the past 30 seconds stopped as I felt the hard wooden ground of the ship's swimming pool area under me. The massive crystal-clear heated swimming pool was only a few meters from me, and I looked up at the immense height we had just come down from, and I'm flat out not joking when I say we probably abseiled 30 meters. I went to look at the hot man that had dropped me down, but he was gone. And all I could think of, besides from how hot he was he must have been a lot of an expert to abseil that quickly and controlled in such a short amount of time. Who the hell was he? As much as I had tried to forget about that hot, sexy man with the Swedish accent, which was very hard, because considering I hadn't seen his face and body, his voice was very memorable. The next day at breakfast, which my grandma and her friends had decided to have in a much posher area of the ship, I found myself really thinking about him. The place where my grandma and her friends had decided to have breakfast was somewhere we had never been before. It was a very large room with immense floor-to-windows that were perfectly clean, blue carpeted floors, and only enough white square tables for about 50 people to have breakfast. It was very impressive, and a lot more intimate than last night's dining chamber, which I seriously loved, because there wasn't a single place I would have rather been than spending time with my amazing grandma and her friends. Despite the absolutely amazing breakfast of crispy bacon, juicy sausages, and the softest, tastiest eggs I had ever had. Again, this was another historical inaccuracy that I was prepared to live with. I still couldn't get his smooth, sexy voice out of my mind. And the question of the gun was still on my mind. Why did he have it? "You okay, Jordan?" my grandma asked as she gently tapped my arm. "Yeah," I said. "I saw something strange last night." "What?" my grandma asked, leaning a little closer. "I accidentally brushed against a man last night, and I felt he had a gun on him," I said, leaning closer. "Is that normal on cruise ships?" My grandma gave a gentle laugh as she finished off a mouthful of her freshly made spinach omelet. "Of course not, honey, but the Norwegian and Swedish prime ministers are coming aboard tomorrow. It was probably just a security guy." She was probably right, like always. "Oh, Heidi. This must have cost you a small fortune," my grandma's oldest friend said, called Rose. "No, not really," my grandma said. "My old insurance company wanted to reward me for so-called decades of service, and you all know I don't pass up a freebie." "Like that time in Spain in the 70s, Rose said, and everyone laughed. "You didn't pass on those 4 Spanish men." If there was ever a time I didn't want to hear about my grandma's sex life, it was right now. And if the sea could have taken me, I wish it would right this second. My grandma laughed for a few moments and hugged me. "Rose, my grandson doesn't want to hear about my sex life." "And what trip are you doing later?" "We'll be arriving in Oslo shortly." I instantly smiled at that. I had been so looking forward to exploring the beautiful capital of Norway for so long, and it would be simply brilliant to see the sights, explore the city, and speak the language as I had been studying hard for ages. Me, Pickett, and Robin are going to explore the museums, Rose said. Brilliant, I said, trying to sound excited, but being careful not to get myself roped into a day of babysitting my grandmas and, to be honest, my friends. Are you coming with us? Rose asked. And there I was in the trap. I had basically just confirmed that I was happy about them going to the museum, and that excitement sort of implied I was going there too, and glad for the company. It will be like having our own historical expert there too, a short woman with silver hair called Pickett shouted. I subtly looked at my grandma, but she just grinned. She wasn't going to help me out of this. I'll join you a bit later, I said, holding my thin stomach like it was hurting. I don't think my sausages were cooked very well. Then I pretended to cough, and my grandma subtly shook her head at me. Hello, everyone, Ropa said as he came over to the table. I instantly swore under my breath. He was so hot and sexy, and he was probably the best-looking Norwegian man I had seen on the trip so far, but I just felt weird about him, and not in the good way. I pretended to hiss in pain again, and grabbed my stomach, and I quickly walked away from the table. Thankfully, I hooked an immediate right out of the room we were having breakfast in, and I found myself going down a long silver corridor deeper into the cruise ship. A few moments later, I came out onto a very long blue metal platform that I had heard was where the scuba diving sessions took place when the ship was in warmer waters. The icy cold water was only meters away, and at least I now knew that the ship was in Oslo Harbor. The harbor was so beautiful with its bright lights, ancient-looking red wooden houses, and it was really nice to see all the fishing boats preparing to go out. Someone climbed onto the deck. I instantly jumped up as I saw a large, very fit man crawl onto the deck wearing a black dry suit. He just smiled at me as he took off the dry suit, revealing a very expensive black suit, black shoes, and a killer smile. Damn, he was hot. I seriously loved his smooth facial features. Dark sapphire blue eyes and dark brown hair, like all Swedish men, seemed to grow so naturally and make it look perfect every time. Hello again, the man said. I recognized it as the man from last night, and damn, he was so cute and hot and sexy. But why was he in the water diving? What are you doing here? I asked. The man shrugged. I don't have to tell you that, and I'm more interested in why you're following me. As much as I wanted to tell him, it was because I found him extremely attractive, and I seriously hoped he was gay. I noticed a minor edge in his voice, like he actually wanted to know, almost like I was a danger to him. I think my grandson's down here somewhere, I heard my grandma said. I'm sure we'll find him. It would be good to meet him at last, Ropa said. Damn it. Not bloody Ropa again. I just looked at the really hot man in front of me, and just went for the only play I knew. I'm sorry, I said. I grabbed the man, pulled him closer, and I kissed him. I kissed him a lot. I heard the man put his diving stuff behind me as he pushed me against the wall. And believe me, this hot man was very gay, and he was an excellent kisser. The sheer attraction, passion, and power in the kiss was amazing, and far better than anything else I had ever experienced. Thankfully, it only took a few more moments to hear Ropa walking away, so he had probably seen this very hot making out scene and ran away. Thank God. Then I realized that the hot Swedish man wasn't stopping. He kept kissing me. I sadly pushed him away. He's gone. The man smiled. Thanks for that. You really saved me. What agency do you work for? I just looked at him. I actually had no clue what he was talking about. I didn't work for an agency? What? I asked, trying to be polite but seriously wanting to just get out of there. You can tell me. We're all intelligence officers here, the hot man said. I'm Swedish Secret Service. What about you? I'm not anything, I said, walking very quickly away. The problem was, I actually didn't know what the hell I had just walked into. The hot man was either a madman with a gun pretending to be a spy, or he was a real spy who had just revealed his secret identity to me. And whatever the answer was, that scared me a lot more than I ever wanted to admit. After an amazing day walking around Oslo with my grandma's friends, telling them all about the history of the city, like how the area modern Oslo was located in used to belong to Denmark in the Viking Age, and throughout the Middle Ages it constantly switched between the Danish and Norwegian kings, until the Danish finally lost control of the city in 1241. Then, after the best dinner of historically accurate Norwegian food, with some liberties I will admit, actually made it taste good, me, Grandma, and her friends had played some poker, and finally me and Grandma were off to bed. I was laying on my perfectly warm, toasty single bed with its very thick sheets just staring up at the ceiling in the pitch darkness, and I seriously couldn't stop thinking about that damn Swedish guy. I was actually starting to think that I had a thing for the guy. He was so beautiful, handsome, and damn sexy that I was very surprised at myself. I never normally reacted this intensely to guys, but there was also a great air of mystery to him. Not the dangerous kind, but the interesting kind that I really did want to explore more. Our hotel door buzzed and clicked open. I instantly froze. My grandma was safely in her bed, and I was doing the same. No one should have come in, and even my grandma's friends wouldn't dare do anything like this. Slivers of light poured into the room as someone slipped into the room. I didn't know who they were, but I just knew that there was a light switch next to my bed. And the criminal breaking in would have to come right past me to get to Grandma. I flew off my bedsheets, punching the light switch. The lights exploded on. A massive man dressed in black appeared next to me. I dived forward, slamming him against the wall. I punched him. He hissed. The man slammed his fists into me, kicking me in the stomach. I went to punch him. The man blocked me expertly. He punched me in the throat, throwing me onto the bed. Grandma jumped out of her bed, aiming a gun. The man charged at her. Grandma fired. The man hissed. He jumped into the air. I jumped off my bed. I missed him. I slammed onto the floor. Grandma hissed. She punched him. The hotel room door exploded open. A man stormed in, firing something. The attacker screamed as he slammed onto the ground. Then I noticed the man dressed in black had a taser coming out of his back, and then the very hot Swedish man holding the taser came over and handcuffed the man in black. I went over to our attacker and ripped off his mask, and I was very surprised to see it was Ropa. "Area is secure, madam," the hot man said. "The prime ministers are secured. The decoys are still alive and—" "Stop," my grandma said. "Why, madam? I thought you said MI6 didn't want any of the prisoners of this op." I just looked at my grandma. I think she means stop because I'm not cleared. And really, Grandma, is an insurance company the best MI6 could come up with? She shrugged. Budget cuts. I wanted to be the owner of a bank, but that was too pricey apparently. I just hugged her because she was perfectly okay, and that was all that mattered. But she definitely had some explaining to do in the morning. "So this was all an op?" Rose asked. The next morning, we were all back out sitting in the very large dining chamber with its wonderful live band, filled with so-called attractive men, bright white walls, and immense size. But my favorite feature this morning was the out-of-this-world Swedish breakfast, and I didn't care how historically inaccurate it was. It was the best breakfast ever. And there was another change to this morning that I was seriously a fan of. The hot, sexy Swedish agent was actually called Ludwig, and he was sitting with us. He looked utterly beautiful with his smooth and lifeful brown hair, smooth, handsome face, and he looked divine in his pair of tight black jeans and white t-shirt. He looked like a god, to be honest. "Yeah," my grandma said. "This was an op between MI6, the Norwegian and Swedish secret services. The UK needs trade deals, and Norway and Sweden wanted to get rid of a problem without paying for it. I laughed. Clever. Hence the need for an English cruise ship, crew and tourists. That would spend English money in Norwegian towns and cities. Exactly, my grandma said. We had all known that Ropa was an international assassin for years, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to take him out of the game and learn what he knew. So we set a trap and thankfully caught him. That's why I saw you behind the curtains, I said to Ludwig, and why I saw you in the diving area. You had just returned from what? Seeing if the ship was sound, in case Ropa had placed any bombs on the outside. Your grandson's smart, Ludwig said. I was liking this hot, sexy man more and more. Say my name, I said very seductively, and felt so embarrassed when my grandma's friends laughed at me because of how cute they found it. Ludwig looked into my eyes, and I really loved staring into his dark sapphire eyes. Jordan, Ludwig said, you're very smart, clever, and beautiful. My stomach filled with butterflies, and I didn't want this moment to end. That's why I bought him here, actually. MI6 and the British government wants to strengthen our Scandinavian relationships, so they want to post a permanent agent here, my grandma said. My smile grew so much when I heard that. You want me to join, don't you? Get trained up and stationed here with this beautiful man. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my grandma shrug like this was nothing. I have friends in high places and a lot of dirt if they say no, she said smiling. What do you say, kiddo? Want to join the intelligence game? All I could do was stare into the dark sapphire eyes of the beautiful man in front of me, and I kissed him. He kissed me back, and all my grandma's friends smiled and laughed for a moment before they went back to their breakfast and planned the next few days of the cruise. Not because they found the scene of me and Ludwig kissing wrong or disgusting or not appropriate, but because they all had their answer. I was going to get trained up, posted in Scandinavia, and I was going to spend a lot of amazing years, maybe, hopefully forever, with wonderful Ludwig. The amazing man I was starting to fall for, the man I found fascinating, and the man I was seriously looking forward to getting to know better. And that really was the perfect end to a crazy 2 days.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.